I give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck? Why do I try so hard? Why do I care so much?
Welcome to Why Do I Give a Fuck? A cross-cultural conversation between myself, Diane Tate,
and Johanna Thompson. In these times of great struggle and possible shift, we ask ourselves,
why do we give a fuck about any of it? How does the lens we see the world through impact what we see?
And what do we do about it? Welcome back after wonderful family days. What do you call this holiday that
That's a great
people
question.
come together in the
Yeah.
US and celebrate? Thanksgiving holiday is the one that we're referring to, which is the common name that folks use.
Yeah.
But what do you have? What were some of the names that people were calling the holiday?
I have changed the name of this so many times over the past few years. This year I was calling it Takesgiving.
Takes.
I don't remember who introduced me to that. It might have been my friend Mika, but yeah, I was calling it Takesgiving. I think I sent you a text and said Happy Fuckery Day. So
That one.
there's that too.
You
Um,
did, you
yeah,
did.
I have a really hard time these days, the past couple of years with this particular holiday because everybody just, knee jerk says Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
And I don't
Thanksgiving.
I don't want to say anything back, or
Yeah.
I want to start giving them a lecture about why we don't celebrate genocide. So I I'm curious about how you handled it and what kind of verbiage you use to refer to it.
Yeah, so it's really funny to be having conversations with different people. So happy Family Day, because let me
Mm.
run it back and contextualize it for the listeners that we have kind of far and wide. Because I am again in on the island of Jamaica, and there is no celebration of Thanksgiving
Mm.
as an understanding. So U.S. holiday Thanksgiving that happens every year, and it is a time where in the U.S. families come together, I would say. It's the beginning of our holiday season meaning where, we start doing whatever our faith-based belief systems are, Christmas, Kwanzaa, all of the, what is the Holy Friday? I'm
Oh,
trying to think of all
yeah.
of the,
Well, no, that's around
with
Easter.
Catholicism. No, Good Friday and all of the things that are happening around
Yeah,
like the faith-based understanding.
and Hanukkah and
Hanukkah is
yeah.
happening, and Ramadan happens
Mhm.
sometime around.
Yep.
So, anyway, Thanksgiving, folks come together, but it really is based on this narrative story about Christopher Columbus coming over and the what they call Indians, which are not people from India, but the indigenous people on Turtle Island, U.S. territory, opening their arms and showing the pilgrims who were the colonizers coming over, showing them love and graciousness and how to basically harvest food and be able to survive here in a new land. So that's the story, that's the celebration, that is
And
something that's indoctrinated into young people from a very, very young age in our school system. As the story is like kind of the beginning joyful celebration of US territory happening. But the reality of the situation was that it was a mass massacre of the indigenous people on this land. We're talking about millions of people that lived in their communities of folks and had whatever human issues that
mm,
they have amongst each other, but it was a mass of people who had a civilization and a way of life and a belief system that was completely eroded when colonization happened and people started to come to this land from European islands.
mhm.
And so, as we become more aware of the history of that trauma and pain and genocide of a people, we still like the celebration of being able to come together as family, but more of us are understanding the pain that is associated with the celebration. And so, the conversation we're having right now, myself and Deanne, is like in our communities, what do people call it? So
Yeah.
some of the things that we had was Happy Colonization Day. So we laugh about that, right? And so it's like everybody's like, all right, we're getting together with your family on Colonization Day. Indigenous Peoples Day, like will happen the day, I think, after or before, really recognizing the harm that has gone forward during this Thanksgiving time. Let's see, what else did I hear that was really some good ones? Yeah, what were you saying?
Indigenous Day is actually replacing Columbus Day in a lot of,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
But yeah, so but there is some, and I know that there's something that happens around that same time to recognize and honor, what's happening with
yeah.
Indigenous history in the United States as people are celebrating this thing. And so, yeah, so that's what we're talking about. And the interesting thing socioculturally that happens during this time is the holiday season. So people start getting in their feelings in the United States. You have really high rates of people reporting harm to themselves or deep depression and sadness because there's this idea of what the holiday season should look like from the way that we, watching TV and stories that we've heard, narratives that have been told throughout our schooling here. So it's a very interesting particular time that happens that we don't really talk about in the United States. And culturally, there could be some differences around that. And then you also have like the when families get together, you have the old crazy drunken uncle, the angry grand auntie, the grandma trying to keep the family together. Like you have these narrative tropes about who is showing up at the family gathering
Oh, yeah.
that become jokes. So do you have any of those type of characters?
Oh, boy. The holidays were always very stressful. When I was growing up, I grew up
Mm,
in a small town in North Carolina where my maternal grandmother, so my mom's mom and my mom's older sister, one of her older sisters, also lived in the same town. So growing up, people travel for the holidays all the time. I never did because everybody always came to us. Anybody that was living outside of the town would come to us because my grandmother was there, who was the matriarch of the family, and my aunt and my mom. And so we would rotate the holidays. Somebody would be responsible for Thanksgiving meals, somebody would be responsible for Christmas Eve, and somebody Christmas Day. And then every year it would rotate. And so my mother was never good at cooking. It always gave her incredible anxiety to prepare a meal, even for just the five of us, much less, a larger family gathering. So when she was in charge of Thanksgiving, it actually was a good thing because she created so much stress for herself around Christmas that to pile, a big dinner on top of the Christmas prep was just knocked her out of the park. So yeah, Thanksgiving, all of the holiday meals were always had a level of strife in them. The men, how many drinks were they going to have before they finally got to the table? We didn't have a lot of men in our family. It was just my dad and my uncle. Everybody else were a lot of estrogen around the table, a lot. And so, dad and Uncle Haskell wasn't as much of a drinker, but they would, how many drinks are they going to have before they finally get to the meal? And yeah, so there was some of that for sure. We didn't really have the traditional, so I know some families will have the added stress of like other family members who are coming to the meal are going to bring dishes with them, and oh my god, what are they going to bring this year? Is it going to be edible? Is it not? All of the mindset things that go around in that. We didn't have that because of our incredible
mhm.
privilege. We had somebody that helped my mother prepare. My grandmother had a cook, so she didn't do any of the cooking, and my aunt did most of it. But my aunt was kind of an outlier. I remember one year instead of a turkey, she cooked antelope for us, and I thought my grandmother was going to have a fit.
Okay, wait. No,
It is a type of deer. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
that type of deer. Okay, okay,
And
okay.
I'm the middle child. She was the middle child. She was the rebel. I'm the rebel. So it's like I really identified with her. And we went to her house for I think it was Christmas Day meal that year. And she
Antelope.
comes in with the meal and she sets it in the middle of the table, like super proud. And clearly it's not a turkey. And my
Yeah,
grandma was just like, "What is that?"
yeah.
You know? And she said, "It's antelope," and she was so excited to blow everybody's minds in that moment. So that's the kind of
How fun.
those are the kind of like inconsistency, oh my God, what's going to happen kind of things for us that happened when I was growing up.
So did you enjoy like getting together, like when it was time for a holiday and you knew that everybody was going to get together? Were you like excited about that, or you were like, okay, here we go.
Not
I have to
really,
watch
because
out
it
for.
increased all the
Oh,
stress. And
oh,
the
okay.
only thing as a kid, the only thing I remember being excited about, and this is kind of funny, if you want to read my book, it's all in my book. My uncle absolutely insisted on having white bread at the table for every meal. And none of my white bread was like a thing in my family. My mother thought it was just the devil incarnate. She would never let us eat white bread. It was always had to be wheat bread. And so when Haskell came to dinner, we knew we were going to get white bread. So all of us loved it when he came to the meal. And
Was
as,
it Wonder? Was it the Wonder white bread?
yes, it was.
Wonder slices? Yeah.
Yes, it was. And so, back in the day, I don't know, but it's probably changed a little bit now in terms of its nutritional support, but it was crap when I was growing up. And so my mother just had this block on it. She would never let us eat it. But if Haskell was coming, we were going to have white bread. And so as kids, that was what made us happy. But
Mhm.
everything else was stress. There was an increase in drinking. There was an increase in, screaming. My mother, especially if she had to do a meal on top of the Christmas holiday, because she would stay up until all hours. This is long before you could shop online. And so she
Mhm.
had to, go out and get all of the gifts. The expectations were super high. My father never carried any of that weight. And she would stay up until, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, wrapping every absolute piece of gift. And so by the time we would get to Christmas, she was so exhausted she couldn't even function. And so yeah, yeah. I've spent way too much time talking about my family memories.
Well, no, it speaks to the holiday. I'm actually laughing because I'm like, the things that we're talking about are so outside of like the foundation of what the holiday is supposed
I
to
know.
actually be. People having stress, people talking about gifts and making sure that everything meets a specific standard,
Yeah.
and it's funny when you start thinking about what it is that we focus on and forget the kind of connected humanity of just being together. So like one of the things is me getting from this island all the way out to California, which is where most of my nucleus family effort. It's a huge effort now. So like,
Uh,
yes, it's a quick hop to get to back over to Miami, about an hour and a half, but then, getting all the way to California and my people don't live near the airport. So then that's like after you get off of a 5, 6 hour flight, you're also getting on another hour and a half ride on a bus
yeah.
to where the houses are. And yeah, so when you make that type of an effort, the only expectation that you have is that everybody come and show up and that we all have a really good time
Yeah.
because you put so much effort in. But anybody traveling during the holiday, it
Oh,
can be a thing.
yeah.
And then in my family, we all kind of have the same mind, so it's very rare that there's ever static. We laugh and crack jokes a lot.
Mm,
Um, and one of the things, we're in Northern California. It's a very progressive community. We have a blended family and always have. The jokes that we create now is that my younger brother, whose father a Scottish Irish white identified man. So my younger brother is half white. He married a white woman, and so now he has little babies. And so we crack jokes about how those babies are ethnically identified, and those are the kind of things that we have. But there's not really any difficult conversations or tensions. And I probably am the person that brings more kind of like this political
me
analysis.
too.
So when
Me,
it was time for us to like get ready for us to do the food,
yeah.
everybody pulled out their camera because they're like, what is
What's she
Jay
gonna
gonna
say?
say? So it was all
Yeah.
of that, power to the people, colonization day. We are thanking the turkey and we are thanking the farmers for the food and all of the type of things that you have to do as you're
Yeah.
calling in the reality of what it is that we're doing, as we're trying to also
Right.
preserve like what family culture looks like coming together beginning this holiday season,
Right.
especially because this holiday season has the potential to be so different and unexpected for so many people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this year we spent the holiday, that particular holiday, with my partner's family. And my partner is a black identified man, and so I was the only white person in the household except for my daughter. So she was the first, it was her first time meeting all of his family. And so that definitely, I'm not gonna, I am usually the one that everybody's getting the phones ready and what's she gonna say. but
Uh-huh.
I didn't bring that same energy at his mother's household because of the I just have a different level of respect, and I don't know. I'm just much more mindful about whether or not I can rock the boat and whether or not it's the right time for me to bring up all of the things,
Mhm.
because it is a very different, and they're very staunchly Christian faith based, and so there's
Mhm.
lots of thanking God. And my partner and I do not identify as Christians, so we bow our heads, but we're
Stand there respectfully.
standing
Hmm.
there, but we're not, and so yeah, it's a very different vibe this year for around that particular holiday than before. So
Okay, so then we definitely have to talk about it. We have to talk about what is the expectation around the food around the dinner table, because I know that it's a different type of a menu that could occur from family to family to family,
yeah,
especially when it's white folks and black folks cooking.
especially
But you're also very Southern, so I would be curious to
true.
know what was at the dinner table.
The typical fixins, sweet potato pie instead of pumpkin pie. So that's a
Uh-huh.
difference in the cultural.
Uh-huh.
Funny enough, my daughter said to me, she said, "Am I going to be expected to bring any food? Because I'm white and it's not going to be seasoned. It's not going to taste good." Laughed and
Okay.
I said, "No, don't worry about it. They're going to cook everything." So yeah, there were all the typical fixins. I identify as vegetarian, pescatarian on any given day. So I did not partake in the turkey or the ham or
Yeah.
the cornbread dressing because it had ground beef in it, but I
Oh,
ate the
oh.
heck out of some yams and some collards and some green beans and mac and cheese. And that I told my daughter, she said, "Will there be mac and cheese?" I said, "Oh yeah, and it
Yes,
will
there's going to
mac
be
and
real
cheese
mac and
filling."
cheese.
And it did not disappoint. I looked over at her and I said, "How's that mac and cheese?" She said,
It says the
"Lord."
mac and cheese.
So actually the food was I'm not sorry to my white identified family that might be listening, but the food was
Delicious.
just smack you around, and it was, yeah, a little better than I get at the white identified holiday dinner table. So
But what is the difference? Like, so macaroni and cheese would be at your traditional home
no,
place? No, there would
right,
be no
no,
macaroni and cheese.
no macaroni and cheese,
What?
but mashed potatoes, which we didn't have.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right, cool.
yeah.
All right. So, okay, so you didn't have, this is so interesting. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. Okay, so you did have you with if you were with your white people, you would have had mashed potatoes,
But no mac and cheese. Yes,
but no mac and cheese.
yes,
Okay. All right. Turkey, yes, both
yep,
places.
yep,
Ham, both places.
yes.
Okay. Collard greens, both places.
No. Sometimes we've had collard greens at the white gathering if it's,
Uh-huh.
because my brother does know how to cook them,
Uh-huh.
but they're not as flavorful. So
Okay. Okay. So sometimes collard
not
greens,
that
if
bad.
your
Yes, they were,
if
yeah.
your adopted black brother cooks them.
If he cooked them, they'd be great.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand.
But it's the
Okay.
white
So collard greens.
brother-in-law that typically does the cooking around a big meal like that anymore. And so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Cornbread, you said.
Yes, but cornbread not at Brian's family's gathering. Cornbread dressing that had like
Okay.
ground beef in it and stuff, but actual cornbread would be at the white.
At the white side.
Yeah,
Oh, your wife. Okay.
yeah.
So what kind of bread would you have
Rolls, like
at
dinner
Brian?
rolls.
You had
Yeah,
dinner rolls with
yeah,
Brian in them.
yeah.
Okay. All
When
right.
we did have dinner rolls with Brian, we'd have a little bit different, but it's still dinner rolls at the white gathering as well. So
So dinner rolls and cornbread.
yeah.
Hmm. And then what kind of stuffing? Did you have cornbread stuffing on the white side?
We would, but it would be like Pepperidge Farm cornbread
Okay.
dressing.
The
So yeah,
pepper.
yeah,
Okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
no ground beef,
We like
just
that.
lots of bread.
So
And the sweet potatoes, it would not be yams. It would be sweet potatoes with the marshmallows all over them
where?
at the white side.
Okay.
Yams.
This is
That's another. candied yams, and they were so good.
Okay, that's so yummy. So with the caramelized sugar, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
But do on those yams, do they put marshmallows or no?
White side does, but
White
not
side, puts-
not the other.
not the, yeah, because it's just sugary anyway.
Yeah,
So that's so interesting. So I can say that at my dinner table, here is like the blending. So you also have Caribbean components of it. So yes, macaroni and cheese, turkey, ham, not so much because nobody really eats pork. Like I mean, there's a group of people, if they wanted the pork, they would have brought it.
yeah,
But
gotcha.
nobody is like really gonna make the effort to like cook it because not everybody eats it. And most of the time, as you can see by my face and even the way I'm talking about it,
It's
we're
not
not gonna
flavorful.
like pork around.
Yeah.
So um collard greens, yes, for sure, must have. But we had both, well, we had all kinds of the starches, right? So you have cornbread stuffing, Pepperidge Farm, you have regular dressing, which is like just the breadcrumbs one that my
Hmm.
mom makes, and then she makes it all gourmetish. So like it has cranberry chunks and stuff like that that not everybody loves.
Okay.
And then the regular stuffing. Mashed potatoes, because my brother does make a screaming mashed potato that is like a garlicky mashed potato that is
Oh,
absolutely
that's good.
magnificent. But then we also have to have rice and peas because everybody wants to have also rice and peas. We
Gotcha.
have to have different, we have both sweet potato and pumpkin pie
Okay, so a
and
little
apple
more
pie. So
balanced.
yeah, so like you have both of them, macaroni and cheese, and then multiple people bring macaroni and cheese, and then I have to make a macaroni and cheese because that's how much macaroni and cheese is consumed
Oh
in
my.
2 days. And we're
Wow.
talking about the big pan. So
Yeah.
macaroni and cheese is like a staple, but macaroni and cheese is something that you have in your home often. It's not just during the holidays,
Gotcha.
right? That's
Gotcha.
something that's there.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see how you were communicating about the different sides, and then I do have a blendedy mixed up family situation, and so all of the closest things were there for what
Well, one of
everybody
the
wants.
additional changes that I didn't add
And fish.
was for Brian's family's side, his mom baked all kinds of different desserts. And so
Mhm.
we ate at the kind of eat-in table in the kitchen because the
Yeah,
dining room table was covered with desserts. Covered.
yeah, yeah,
Coconut cake, bundt
yeah,
cake, there was banana pudding, there was, I mean, just all the stuff. So
all of
that
that.
was very different than my family's, white family's tradition. We
Uh-huh.
maybe have a pumpkin pie, and we maybe have, my brother-in-law likes to make, it's pecan pie without the pecans. So he calls it goo pie. So you know that
Oh, I do.
filling
I've heard
that
about
is
that.
the
I've heard
pecan
about that.
pie, but
Yeah,
he just doesn't
yeah,
put
yeah. The
pecans in
filling.
it. So it's like
Okay,
I get
okay.
a cavity just thinking about it. So I never eat it, but it's like sicky sweet. So those are usually the only two things that we have, not a whole
Hmm.
table full of desserts.
Oh yeah,
That's different. And then the
tons
other
of
thing is
dessert.
just the presentation, the use of paper
Hmm.
plates. You know,
Hmm.
my mom's family, it's always china and silver when you're doing a big, big dinner. And that's not
Yeah.
necessarily white versus black, but that was a
No,
difference in, in just the presentation of, and his mom was like, I'm not going to be washing dishes.
not cleaning the dishes.
But she got the good paper, and she got the red
She
plate
got
with
the
the bit
nice
of onions
ones,
on it,
but
not the white paper plates. We had the good stuff,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's still it's a big difference between how my family does it. In my family, and that it's always a tradition of fully
Sit
decorating the
down at the
table, bringing the
table.
silver out, the centerpieces, the whole nine yards. You take pictures of
Hmm.
the table before everybody sits down, kind of thing. And this was
Hmm.
not the same experience. So that was another difference that was really interesting.
That's so funny. Yeah, my mother likes the china plates
Mm,
table setting
yep,
situation.
yep.
So to accommodate her, we have that done, and we all do our prayers around there and act like we're gonna sit down and eat formally, and
Okay.
then we pull out the paper plates.
So you do a little of both. That's so interesting that it's like it's the
because don't
What?
nobody want to wash all those dishes. And then there's a tradition also of like people coming around throughout the day. So it's like you also have this like huge amount of ridiculous amount of food
Yeah,
because people are coming by with like containers and things like that. And like that is like traditionally like
yeah.
the rotation. Who's gonna knock on the door for the day that you get to see and you're sharing
Come and get a plate.
whatever with
Yeah,
them. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, that was different with at Brian's mom's house too. The food was all over the counters and it stayed there all day.
yeah.
And then when his daughter and her kids and boyfriend drove back up north, they brought all of this food with them to give to Brian's sons who didn't go down and that kind of thing. So very different than, I mean, we would have leftovers from my family, but it would all go in big Ziploc bags and it would be in the
Mm-hmm.
fridge. If you wanted to eat leftovers, there it is, go get it. But it wouldn't be people wouldn't stop by to grab a plate.
To
It
get
it
food.
was
Yeah.
about that, so we would even do it so that we would I've had family members who have like gone to different dining tables at different times of the day. So like y'all are gonna
Mm.
have your meal at 11:30 or 12 o'clock, so I'll eat there first, and then I'll come over here for a 2 o'clock meal, and then I'll go.
Yeah.
You're not taking a takeaway. You're sitting down
You're
and
going,
eating.
oh,
Yeah, you're
okay.
being at each
That's
meal
interesting.
and eating at each meal. So that
Yeah.
has happened in the past when you've got multiple families to hit in the same day. So not the
Okay.
takeout thing, but you actually go and sit and the
And sit
expectation
down.
you would
That's
sit.
a whole lot of,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a lot.
yeah.
I know. So but this has been so fascinating to talk about the
It
different
has.
talk about the thing we said we were going to talk about, which was the difference between the actual holiday and the narrative. But I think it's so fascinating how people celebrate differently.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then all of the elements of like the point being that family is getting together, during this time, however it is that you construct that and getting to like be in communication and connection with one another.
Yeah.
So hopefully our next episode we can talk about whether or not there were uh, comfortable conversations because
Mm,
everybody always says uncomfortable conversations. I'm going to shift it around to saying let's have some comfortable conversations
I
about
like
our differences,
I like
uh, you know, things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I mean, I really struggled. I saw, in my algorithms on the socials, a lot of people were saying, boycott this day because we don't celebrate genocide, and I agree with
Mm,
that. So it was really hard, but I also was with family. My daughter was meeting, my partner's family for the first time, and so it just my focus was more on, does she feel comfortable? Are they talking? Are they interacting? How is it going? More so than, and then my mom was in the hospital, so I was back and forth
yeah.
to where she is, which is about an hour away, and so my focus was really scattered this year. And but in my heart I was very tied into the fact that the narratives of this particular holiday, really just are all it's all about whitewashing and genocide on
Hmm.
so many levels. And it's what this country does best in terms of putting the blinders on. And for those of you who are listening that are on different continents and in different countries, you know it- and maybe we could talk about this a little bit in our next episode, but this country's gone to great lengths to change the narrative, and so many people don't know what the actual stories were around Thanksgiving. And, we have a national holiday. Everything is shut down. Nothing is open on Thanksgiving. And same with Christmas in terms of the focus on Christianity, even though there are so many other major religions that celebrate around the same time. But the only thing that shuts this country down is the Christian holiday. So that's some backstory about, what the focus this country has on either narratives that are completely untrue, or focusing only on one major religion having all of the recognition and everything else just being forgotten. And so, which probably those that are listening are not surprised by that for this country, but just to give that backstory.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
So we'll see you all next time, and we'll continue this conversation.
All righty. Can't wait.
See you then.
Why do I give a fuck? Why
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, as you move throughout your day, continue to ask yourself,
Why do I give a
Why Do I Give a Fuck is produced in collaboration with Johanna and Diane. Music by Norwegian musician Water. See you next time.